Okay, we're good. We're live.
Okay, we're live. So, welcome to our new podcast, which is called Latchkey Life. And I'm Karen.
I'm Sharon.
And we're just, a couple besties from high school who figured every other poor slob in the world has a podcast. Why can't
Why
we
not
have
us?
one? Why not us?
So here we are.
So, this is our maiden voyage. It's going to be a little rough, I'm sure. We're still working things out. And I love to listen to podcasts. I love to watch podcasts, but first time we've ever done anything like this.
We're going
So
to give it
bear
our
with
best
us.
shot.
We are. So we like to start each episode with what we call Caresy Sharesy time, where Sharesy's going to share something and I'm going to care about something. So why don't you get us started with what you want to share?
I found while I was death scrolling through TikTok, found this guy who said that the original, like the KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken channel or Twitter X account follows the 4 Spice Girls who have X accounts, and then 7 people named Herb. So they follow 11 herbs and spices.
No, that is freaking funny.
That's it. That's all they follow. And I'm like, well, this can't be true. And sure enough, they follow.
That made my week.
Marketing genius. That was a good one.
Funny. That is a good one.
That is my shares. That kind of stuff makes me so happy and makes me laugh so hard when people are so creative.
Like and clever. Fantastic. That's just clever. I wish I thought of that. That's pretty funny.
That's amazing.
I mean, mine's not as funny, but what I'm caring about is I think my flavor of the summer is peach. And it's ironic because I don't even like peaches. I like the white ones, the actual fruit. I like the white ones. I have never been a fan of peaches because of the skin. I have to peel them completely, and then that's a total mess.
Right. I prefer nectarines.
I don't like those. But I love the Chick-fil-A peach shake that they have this summer.
Oh, yeah. I saw that was new.
Our specialty donut shop with the cronuts or layered donuts, whatever you want to call them. They have a peach cobbler flavor for the summer. Delicious.
Okay. It's the summer of peach.
I have a energy drink that's peach tea flavored, like the little liquid IV stuff you mix.
Yep.
Love it. So peach is my summer flavor.
Okay.
Yep. All right.
I don't have a summer flavor. Sorry.
You don't have to.
Nope. I don't have one.
So that's our Sharesy Caresy time.
That's it. Sharesy Caresy time.
So we're going to launch into our first topic, which is, I guess, kind of helps give you an intro about us and how we met. But we're going to talk about the Catholic school experience because that's where we met, was in high school.
We did in Catholic high school after Catholic elementary school. We both went to separate Catholic elementary schools. So I did 13 years, including kindergarten.
I did 16 years. So first grade through college.
Right. Yep. Yeah, I forgot.
Through college. So I didn't know that they had a Catholic kindergarten.
Yeah, well, that was Holy Trinity. Shout out San Pedro Holy Trinity School. They had K through 8. And
wow.
I did all K through 8. Yeah.
Nice. So, when's the last time, with the exception of funerals and weddings, when's the last time you went to Mass?
I would have to say it was probably either right before or right after my dad died in 2011. Like I was going back around 2011, life was kind of chaotic and just thought I needed something. And so I started kind of going back, and that was kind of like the running joke in the family, is that I told my dad on his deathbed that I went back to church and gave him a heart attack and he died. That is not what happened. But that's what we joke about. That's what we joke about at family dinners.
She already killed Dad.
So yeah, so I would say probably 2011.
That's pretty funny. I'd have to say the last time I went was probably sometime before COVID. I must have been down visiting my mom and I took her to church. So it's been about 5 or 6 years. But yeah, I had a time where when we were still living up in June, I said, you know, I'm going to go to church. I don't know what it was, but because it's such a familiar thing, because we did it for so damn long, and I hated going to church, hated it. And, but it was kind of like very familiar in a comforting way for a little period there.
Okay, back.
Okay,
we're
back.
I can slice this out.
Okay, so all right, we were talking about how we
just all kind of wound up somehow together. Yeah.
So one thing about the whole Catholic school experience is, unless you've done it, you don't really know. So that's kind of where all of us as kids who grew up in the church and going to Catholic school kind of have that weird bond, and only we can joke about it, really. And it's funny, you know, like somebody else tries to joke about it and you're like, you're not, you're not quite there.
Yeah.
Not
I
quite
will
there.
say, like, yeah, also, I'm sure it doesn't happen now, but the elementary school experience, a lot more nuns and priests. And definitely, like, people joke about, like, oh, did they really like hit your hands with rulers? Yes, they really did that. And I remember they they would shove your face into the blackboard if you didn't know the answer right. Like, they'd make you stand right up to it, and then they
like your nose touching.
Yeah. And then for sure we stood in the corner. Yeah, those things really happened.
I don't think I ever had my hands slapped or had to face, do the face the wall thing, but you would have to leave the classroom if you were disruptive or you were laughing or you got the giggles, and you just go outside or just go sit in the back of the room. My brother had a nun who pulled his hair. Okay. Because I don't know if he was just attention span boy or what, but yeah, he had a nun that pulled his hair. And then Tom had a teacher that actually slapped him. And his mom called the school and said, you do something or we file a lawsuit. So that was kind of right on the verge of, you could still, like, you can't even touch the kids now. You can't even like, hey, high five, or, that's a great job you're doing a great job, and give them a little pat on the back. You can't even do that anymore. You can't touch the kids at all. So this was kind of on the verge of, where you could still touch the kids, but you definitely couldn't slap them. So.
And speaking of touching kids, has any good Catholic school had? I remember we had the boys and girls separate PEs. They were not combined. They were completely separate. And I remember the boys used to talk about, they used to have Father Gary watch while they would go, while they were changing or showering or whatever, somebody would stand at the door to watch to see if Father Gary, now I don't know if he ever touched anybody or did anything. They just had a watch. Whether he did anything or didn't, they felt creepy enough to at least have somebody watch. So that was fun. Father Gary watch was a good story.
Yeah, I remember hearing those rumors. There was actually, when we were still in New Jersey at the parish that we were at, the pastor all of a sudden disappeared and, didn't come back. And it was kind of like, well, what happened to him? And that was the story was, well, he was reassigned to another parish. So, that's what they did. they just, if there was any rumors or speculation, true or not, they just reassigned you to another parish, which is really icky. It's really the ugly side of the church. And I mean, it's true. In a lot of cases, it's true. So I don't know. But that was.
And we were shout out class of 87. But like in that time, I remember too, like everybody was Catholic. Like if you weren't Catholic, you were weird. And like Catholicism and Catholic Church, they ran everything. Like Notre Dame was on channel, was on local broadcast every Saturday.
Yep.
They just had way more hold and pull over everything: media, politics, local, national. It was wild when you think back about how it was so infiltrated into everything.
Yeah. But I didn't feel that way in grade school. God forbid you had to go anywhere after school in your uniform. I mean, you were like a target. And it just the stares, and I just felt really self-conscious because we wore those plaid jumpers up through 8th grade. And
red, white, and blue for us
was, taking the bus in high school. Oh, those are those Catholic kids, I mean, it was just, it was a target for whatever. And so I just always felt really self-conscious, and I don't know, that maybe that's just me.
So the uniform sucked.
Anyway, we always wore the dolphin shorts under our uniform in case you fell down and playing kickball and
or whatever. The wind blew because it was a 10-pleat skirt,
or the wind blew. Exactly. So I did a little bit of, I did my 8 minutes of research on Catholic school. And, why do people send their kids to Catholic school? Well, in case anyone wants to know, the key aspects of the Catholic school experience, and we can say whether this was true or not for us. Number one, faith integration. If you have a very strong faith family, like my parents were very Catholic, they felt very strongly about sending their kids to Catholic school. Academic excellence. Generally, Catholic schools have a better curriculum and better teachers, and I really don't know if all that's true, but
however, supposedly. When we were in Catholic school, you didn't have to have a teaching credential. You just had to be a college graduate. So they would get these, 22, 23-year-olds that just graduated, and they probably didn't even have a teaching, it didn't matter what your degree was in. You had a degree, boom, you're now a teacher. It was wild.
And they loved if you were a former student.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that was like fast track.
It was like you were automatically hired if you were a former student.
But I think that then I know that probably a decade ago or so, they required them all to get actual teaching credentials, and they gave them this 2-year grace period, and they gave them some funding, and they did all these things to try and get them all teacher credential. It's wild. That is wild.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's a little scary, actually.
What was and Christy Trujillo, she graduated, or who was the hot Algebra 1 teacher, the tall blonde guy who I think he played college volleyball. He didn't have he straight out of college. He right in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Character and values, community and discipline, and a unique environment.
Yeah, unique.
I would have to say it was a unique experience for sure. But then I started thinking, what if I had gone to public school? Do you ever think about if you had gone to public school, how differently you might have turned out?
Yeah, especially because not that I grew up in a rough neighborhood. I mean, it was super middle class, but the public school where I was there were lots of pockets of some not there was we had the Crips and the blood, you had serious gang problems as it was just starting in the 80s that fed into the public school system. And Yeah, I don't know. I can't even imagine what it would have been like, just because it wasn't, it just was not even an option.
See, I was in a, kind of an upper class neighborhood area, so I think I would have been okay, but I don't know. I think about it and it's
I
like,
don't think I would have been as scared of everything, like just getting in trouble or doing something wrong. I think, though, those types of, because you'd see other people do it and they wouldn't get in trouble, so then you'd be like, well, why am I doing it? And so I think that happened more than it happened in public school. There were a lot less people that were just, you know, F the system, I'm going to do what I want. And that wasn't an option in my household.
Well, and that's the thing about, there was, I can think of at least one or two kids from grade school where they had discipline issues, and God bless their parents for sending them to Catholic school to try and help it. But it's like, it's not going to fix it. All the rules and all the strictness of Catholic school, it's kind of like locks keep honest people out. The rules in Catholic school kept the good kids good, and the bad kids were going to be bad no matter what. And you could not reform them just by sending them to Catholic school. It just made it worse.
It definitely made it worse.
So it's,
and I remember, the Daily Breeze, which was the local newspaper, ran an article. They did some big study about DUIs in younger kids, high school age kids, and they found that our school was the most, like, there were more DUIs at our school than any other high school. And then I was like, well, let's take a look now. So you have a high school that feeds from, like, I don't know what, 20 different elementary schools in like a 20-mile square radius. So yeah, every party you're going to, you're drive, like, whereas the local high schools, it's everybody within a 1-mile radius. So I think statistically it was probably like, kind of like, of course that's going to happen. They're driving more.
Right. God. And I felt like, we were, we were kind of partiers in high school, and there was there was a whole group of people in our class that were just like, oh, they go out and go to parties, and they drink and do this and that, and we were like, what?
There were so many more that were worse than us, for sure. Like, I didn't,
of course,
I didn't definitely did. I waited until after high school until I really got my party on, but I was at a lot of them. I just was the designated driver to a bunch of them because I was like, all right, cool, I'll go. Let's get out. Yeah. There were some fun times.
There were some fun times. People that say they hated school, they hated high school. I mean, I liked high school. It was a good experience for me.
It was fine.
And yeah, I don't know, there's always going to be, it's just the worst part of life. It's just such an awkward part of your life,
For sure.
But I think we had a good group of friends. We still do.
Yep.
And, that's what some people credit Catholic school for, creating those types of lasting friendships. So
I will say that I think, at least locally in Southern California, where you have in Orange County, it's known as the Trinity League. So like the top high schools for athletics that are feeding into like the D1 schools, that you have a very large percentage of people who will send their athletic students to those schools because they feel like it raises their chance of getting noticed and getting to the next level of Division I. But I mean, I feel like if they're that good, they're going to get noticed regardless, that whatever high school they're at, as long as it's a big enough high school. Like, they don't have to go pay the 14 or 24 or whatever many $1,000 for high school, when if they just go to like a really good big public school that's got a good whatever in that sport, they'd still do okay. But there's a lot of movement, which is crazy at the high school level, right? You'll get like a whole bunch of kids will leave Servite and go to Mater Dei, or they'll leave Mater Dei and go to J. Sarah, or they'll leave, like, it to me, at that 14, 15, 16-year-old level is wild. Absolutely great.
Yeah. It's like you're recruiting at that age.
Oh, they for sure are. Even though it's illegal, they're doing it.
But and a lot of times the Catholic schools, they have more money for the sports programs too. That's another thing, is they have the money for the equipment, the training to get a better coach, stuff like that. So that's another thing too. But yeah, I just remember, what was the powerhouse school in our division? Was it Mater Dei?
Mater Dei. Oh no, I think we were Bishop Amat was probably the powerhouse. Bishop Amat was, well, and it depended on the sport too, because it kind of floated from sport to sport. Mater Dei's always been a powerhouse. Servite was another really big powerhouse. Bishop Amat, I remember. I can't even remember.
Yeah, I remember Mater Dei being like, "Oh, we're playing Mater Dei this week." It's like, we're gonna lose.
Well, and then it was different then too. So like it was just Catholics versus Catholics. Like that was just, now there's more of them. They're bigger, and so they're sectioned off a little bit different, right? Like, so Mater Dei's only playing Orange County schools. They're not playing LA County schools in their league.
Oh, the divisions are
totally changed, and they're now trying to redo the divisions based off of, like, I remember, like, it was every 2 years you'd change divisions. You'd go up because you'd do well, and then you'd go down, and it's like every 2 years you were either really good or really bad, and it's like, can we stop doing that? Then they stopped doing that for a long time.
CIF.
And now they're back to it. So it's, I don't know. Youth sports is a wild west for sure.
Yeah, it's certainly changed. I remember when my niece and nephew were playing soccer, and I'm like, "Oh, is it AYSO?" And they just looked at me like, "Are you insane? Nobody plays that. Like, the little babies play that."
Yeah,
they were in, like, the private leagues. I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. Now, am I remembering this correctly? Like, when we had our homecoming game and dance, was the dance right after the game in the gym? Was that how we did it? Or was that just some other random dance? Because I thought that's how we did homecoming, and then they made a different dance bigger.
Yes. So the homecoming dance was a separate event from the game. The game was usually like the day, or I don't know, was the game?
See, I thought we played the game
was at night, right?
The game was like 7:00, and then we just went straight to the gym after the game for the dance. And that's how our but then we had like a bigger, like a winter formal or something.
The homecoming formal was a different event. Yeah, and it was like, I don't even know if it was the same weekend.
I don't think it was
like a different time. But I know that after the homecoming game, there was like a party afterwards. Whether it was organized or not, I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember.
I thought it was an organized thing in the gym afterwards. I don't know. I could be remembering.
Could have been
completely wrong.
It could have been. I don't know. We need the two people that are going to listen to this to, let us know.
Right. Give us the feedback on it.
I don't remember.
And then the other really memorable thing from high school was when the basketball coach got murdered, and they just they get the call at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and they just make an announcement over the speaker and say, "Okay, everybody go home. School's canceled." And they just sent us all home.
See, I don't remember. Did they do that? I don't remember that. I
remember we all went to some park because it was with Julie Porter, who was super upset because it was her coat. I just remember they just sent us all home. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I remember that happening, but I don't remember. I remember having they did a memorial mass in the gym.
Yep.
For everybody, and
his
I remember
wife.
The story was on the news. Yeah, Sterling Hart. Wow.
Yep.
And I think
still
not unsolved.
Still not. They still don't know. It's okay. Back.
I think it's still unsolved.
It is.
I think it's still unsolved.
Yeah, I was Googling. Yeah.
Because he lived in like Hollywood.
North Hollywood
or something like that. And he would take the bus and he would get off the bus and there was like a bar on his way home that he would stop at. And they think it's possibly the last he was seen was with some couple that he met at the bar. And whether he left with them by choice or not by choice, or he was trying to help them, I don't know what that they had some different
theories,
scenarios, theories. But that was one of them was, maybe he was trying to help these people, or maybe he knew them from the bar. Who the hell knows? But was he shot? I don't remember.
He was shot, I think, in his car or found in his car. He was shot. And I think found like a mile from, like, I don't think he was that far from the bar, but I don't remember all the details. And then I tried to Google and get to remind myself, but then it's behind a paywall and I wasn't going to pay the LA Times. So sorry.
Yeah, no. Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't remember the football team doing remarkably well when we were there.
We had the soccer team, I think, was good, and I think the baseball team was good. And then I think the basketball team was okay. But yeah, the football team was never really very good.
Now, I do remember the bench clearing brawl basketball game where
didn't somebody throw a chair?
Somebody threw a chair.
Yeah.
I think it was Delamico threw a chair. That was a big deal. I don't even remember who they were playing.
St. Paul, I think.
And I think there's a picture of it in the yearbook.
Probably.
Where Delamico's got a black eye and he's like laying on the ground or something like that. I vaguely remember that. But yeah, that was a big deal. I mean, they were like, wow, that was the most unsportsmanlike contact ever.
It was the most un-Catholic. Like now it just happens all the time. That's just like pre-season now.
But it was such a big deal because
it was a huge deal.
Yeah. Because we were supposed to conduct ourselves, better. We're better. We're supposed to do better because we are better.
We were not that day. Well, I don't even remember what happened, but it was, and the gym was packed.
Yeah, I think it might have been like a finals game or something. Yeah.
Oh, the good old days.
Oh, the good old days. All right. So we can wrap that up and put a bow on it. So we like to do a segment called What You Talking About, Willis? And I think we need to give a little background on where that comes from.
Of course, we've got to give credit where credit is due. I don't know that like my kids certainly don't know anything about that.
Well, our generation certainly knows that catchphrase, and it came from a little show called Diff'rent Strokes. And it ran for 8 seasons, starting in 1978. It starred Gary Coleman and Todd Bridges, Dana Plato. The Facts of Life was a spinoff off of Diff'rent Strokes. Yep. And that was Arnold's catchphrase when his brother would say something, incredulous. He'd say, "What you talking about, Willis?" It was 2 black kids from Harlem who were adopted by the employer of their dead mother, who was a rich white man who lived on Park Avenue. And, hijinks ensue. So it was a very popular show at the time. And so that was a big catchphrase. So on that note, this is where we talk about something that we just don't understand. And we need the other generations or someone else out there to help us understand it.
Or something that the other generations don't understand that we can explain to them. So both ways. So I will say what you're talking about, Willis, is the term latchkey. So obviously we are of the generation that is quote unquote known as the latchkey kids who were sent home after school with just a key to get in and no supervision. And so I told my kids, who are adults, 24 and 30, that's what the name of it was. And they said, well, I don't know what that means. So I had to explain the term latchkey to my adult children because they did not know what latchkey meant. So that was my teaching moment.
Yep. Well, and our generation was when parents went back to work. My mom stayed home until I think I was in 6th grade and my brothers were older, and she finally went back to work. And it was like you had two parents working and nobody got home till 5, 6 o'clock at night. So we got home at like 3, 4 o'clock. And it was, you turned on the TV, you let yourself in the house, you turned on the TV, you made a snack.
Got a snack.
And when you heard the car pull up on the driveway, you turned off the TV and pretended like you were doing your homework for an hour.
Exactly.
So that's where we came up for the name of the pod, because I think our generation can identify with that. My What You Talking About, Willis, is I go to Planet Fitness. And I also see young people just, working during the course of their day or working out in the gym, and they're wearing Converse All-Stars and Vans tennis shoes. And I just look at them like my back just hurts watching you do any kind of activity in those shoes. And then I think, well, they have about 30 years on me and they don't have the joints and aches and pains that I do. So they can do that in those shoes. And then it was pointed out to me that those shoes have a nice rigid flat sole, which is good for lifting. If you're into weightlifting where you don't want a spongy, soft cushion on your feet. You want something rigid to kind of brace yourself when you're squat thrusting or whatever you're doing.
Yes, that is.
So that's
yeah. I often also think it's still weird, even though when I go to the gym, if I'm using weights, I take my shoes off and just do it barefoot, which people look at me like I'm weird. So, I mean, I guess you just got to, whatever gets you in and doing it, keep doing it. But when I see them on the treadmill, like running, that's when I'm like, that to me doesn't seem right, unless it's just like a quick warm up. But when they're on there doing 6 miles in Chucks, I don't know. It's just weird.
And jeans.
Yeah.
And
the
jeans.
The old guy in jeans. Yeah.
Not working out in jeans. That's like
jeans.
When you go to the beach and people were swimming in jeans.
Yeah.
You're like, what?
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Yep.
So
those things happened. Yeah. So that's it. Welcome to the pod.
Welcome to the pod.